Let's see.
How are you?
I'm good. Hold on. I've got like all kinds of what the hell's going on?
You don't look like the picture, right? You don't look like your picture.
It's a pretty fabulous sculpture, though, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
from when I was in San Francisco, and one of the anyway, it's Anish Kapoor, I think, is the sculptor. Okay,
Ooh.
am I crazy?
No, no, no. You look great. I always laugh at things like that because I I would be you. I would take the picture 30 times in a row and then go home and be like, it's never the same.
No.
It's the same. I do that with the ocean of all things.
Oh yeah. Oh
And then
yeah.
I'm shocked when I look back at the pictures and it's just water.
I know. And you're like, well, how is it so magical? What happened?
It's
But
just, wow, this is 30 pictures of water in many
I
ways.
love that. I love that. Well, I mean, actually it gets at something, right? It's like, no, you have to be there because
Yeah,
actually that was what was entrancing about it, not some exercise of technology that is really just a ghost of what you were in that
yeah.
moment.
Well, that makes me wonder. My interviews are very conversational, and that kind of leads into one of my questions, which is you started out as a poet. And one thing that was really, in reading about you, one thing is like she has strong beliefs. She has something to say. And I wonder, as an artist, especially someone considered so strong, do you ever feel like you said it all, like you really painted the picture, or is it like the 30 pictures of water always, and you're like, when do I actually show the ocean?
um I read through a bunch of your interviews, by the way, and I like what you draw out of people. I'll get back to that. But I was like Grace Gardner, whatever. That's interesting work that she did. But um, you know what I everything we do is iterative, right? It's again and again and again and again and again. And change happens. And sometimes, you kind of might think, well, I said that thing before? And then you realize, well, I said it in that moment at that time.
Hmm.
Something I get from performing, and this goes back to my theater days, where when I was in theater or when I was a dancer, right, you're repeating the step, the framework is something that you're repeating over and over and over again, and it's like a religious practice.
Yeah.
You do it because you're seeking something and you have this framework that you've built, and in the doing of it you hope that you will encounter something, you will learn something. In the profession, in the context of performing live, it's the connection with the audience and the energy of the band that is, it's so ephemeral. But we are electric, we are carbon, you know and everything we do, nature is this iterative process, again and again and again and again. And repetitive things we anyway, I'm going on.
No, no, it kind of makes me wonder a little bit in terms of one thing that when I write songs, I notice is that you kind of mentioned it, you say the same thing over and over again, the many ways of the same thing. And I'm wondering, do you ever feel, how do you tell the difference when it's just something that you need to say, like it's literally your soul talking back to you, or you've actually found a style? Because that's where I get like a little bit crossed in like the songwriting process. Am I finding my style, my essence, or am I just kind of there's something that my soul wants to tell me, and I'm
Mhm.
writing 30 different songs to get the same message, but it's just not hidden. Like, I'm wondering, like, listening to your music, if that's kind of your journey as well. Like, you're talking to you through your songs.
Oh, absolutely, right? I mean, so part of it is, part of it is self-exploration.
Mhm.
Although, believe it or not, I I was telling a friend of mine, I'm like, I even though I write poetry and I'm doing these, I don't consider myself a I'm not engaged in self-analysis.
Mhm.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But I am definitely seeking I'm seeking knowledge. I'm seeking a way to express my presence on the planet,
Yeah.
and one of the things I do is I read a lot of poetry too, and I read a lot, and because I'm curious about how other people talk about the experience of being a human being, and across the centuries, and right, and different identities and all these things. Uh, you know, there's part of it is this: I am seeking a conversation. It is a conversation with myself, but it is also with the band a collaborative production, right? I come to them with the lyrics, the melody, sometimes an arrangement. I'll send them something on my iPhone, just a rough something I knocked out on the acoustic guitar or something. And then we get together, and the thing that I started as kind of a conversation with myself, those words that, that, like you were saying, that song that you've written again and again and again, turns into something else by virtue of, Ben and Gordon and Matt and Joel all bringing whatever they're bringing in that moment at that rehearsal in the basement, and it transforms it. And I love that.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't have fully anticipated that, but together we do.
Yeah. Well, the way you talk about live performance, it's so interesting because you're one of the few artists that has ever spoken about live performance in a way where it kind of it feels necessary to being an artist. Like it's always an addition. Because a lot of people are shocked to know how shy artists are, how
Yeah.
they breathe, like they a lot of artists wish they could just push out their music and then hide. And it seems like for you, it's almost integral to the creative process.
It's absolutely essential. It is the front thing. It is the thing. It is the thing that I'm doing. And all of these other elements are they're not ancillary to it. But if the live performance isn't there, I'm not too terribly interested.
Mm,
I'll continue writing and all that, but what interests me is, when you're performing live, it's without a safety net, right?
yeah,
There something that did not exist before is being made in the moment, in front of people, with people. You're responding to their energy. It is ancient. It's an ancient practice. You know, this goes back to, you know, millennia. This is
yeah,
what we do. All of the other stuff, writing, symbolism, whatever, development of instruments, blah, 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 all this other stuff
yeah,
are plugins.
yeah. It's interesting because it makes me wonder, like as you were talking, I kind of asked myself, is it that why are people scared of being seen? Because
Well,
is it I wonder, is it a fear? Is it some type of trained belief of humility or something? Because it feels like one of the running jokes about artists too is like you can't be that shy.
I know,
Like
but we know
we
it's
claim we're
true
shy, we're
though.
not that shy.
But what I hear and I get, because I will tell you, like, I'm some friends invited me to dinner, and I'm not always comfortable with that. See, to me, I'm not shy about the the gift of performing. To me, that's it truly is this ritual
Hmm.
of giving.
Yeah.
And but I don't necessarily want to just like hang out with people. And like I like talking to you because to me this is part of the work. And
Yeah.
you're an artist. And so we're having this conversation about art. And I love that.
Yeah.
But I feel kind of sometimes just uncomfortable in the world. Like when I'm not
Mm.
performing or making art or serving in some way, doing the work, I feel okay with. But kind of there are, so I get that many performers or many artists are feel shy, and there's a good reason why. You Vulnerability is essential to what we're doing.
Mm. You
And
know,
it's not always treated well, you know what I mean?
no, it's funny you say that because I never saw it as, even though I've had artists say, you're being tremendously vulnerable, and Amy Winehouse is one of my favorite
Oh,
artists. Part of her self-destruction was that she kept on singing about her issues. And it's like every day you sing the same song about your alcoholism, about your toxic relationship. And eventually it's like if you haven't healed, the song feeds the wound. So, yeah.
yeah. And I think there are there, for her, and I think for so many artists who what I would say succumb.
Yeah.
Um I understand it.
Yeah.
It's very hard. It's very hard. And of course, people can make light of it or denigrate, oh, really, is it that hard? And it's like, well, actually, it is. It is. Part of it is like, I learned so much from my son who's can be highly sensitive about certain things that, quote unquote, typically developing people might not be. And I observe it and I'm like, wow, it's almost like the antennas are just all, people talk about super sensitive people. Well, sometimes, guess what? We are all kind of neurologically wired slightly differently,
Yeah.
and some people are just super attuned to stuff that's going on.
Yeah. The ether.
And it weighs on, Amy Winehouse. You wish, I'm sure people tried to help her and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But I think there's also that element of um how do you say, consumption of the artist, want to just eat them up.
Yeah.
And anyway, yeah.
No, I mean, like your son, I was always deemed really sensitive, and sometimes it is that the world has desensitized a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think, like with the case of Amy, the thing about Amy is the tortured artist concept that you
Mm-hmm.
need to make your art. And I see it all the time in Twitter. I think, like, I never forget, I think The Weeknd broke up with somebody and somebody said, "No, we're gonna get a really good album. Get a really good
Taylor
album."
Swift, man. Taylor Swift wrote the book on that. I,
Yeah.
I read your thing about anti-hero, and I've got to tell you, like, I not necessarily like someone who's followed her music all along, but there are certain songs that she's written, and I do think that Anti-Hero is actually a pretty amazing song,
Yeah.
and I was really quite impressed with the writing,
Yeah.
and kind of the storytelling was really good in that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And look at her, God, can you imagine the freaking scrutiny? I can't. It's just,
And especially she was kind of prodigious and prolific. Like, I think, and the same thing happens with Billie Eilish too. Like, these are
yeah.
started so young that they're going to inevitably have a long career. I mean, Taylor Swift is in her 30s, and she's almost going on 2 decades of being in this.
It's
In the,
amazing. Yeah.
so I think when you have such a long career and you started so young, especially in these times, there's more room. There's an inevitable room for criticism.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because everybody has an opinion, and nowadays, like, an opinion comes with followers. So people have to have bigger opinions, crazier opinions,
That's true.
just to get that follower. So it's not even, I think what seems to me from her, by now she has a good head on her shoulder to understand that she's a symbol.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And I think
interesting, like, yeah, right.
going back to Amy, what affected her is that she was in such a dark place. She didn't have a head on her shoulder to say, people are attacking the symbol of me.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not attacking me. Because
Yeah.
I don't mean anything beyond the music and beyond
Mhm.
the topic. And I
And, what is the thing that is, you know, I keep coming back in my work to in my small kind of space of what I'm doing. And people will still say, "Why are you doing this? Why are you bothered? Why are you doing this? So hard. Why?" Da, 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 da." I mean, other people say, "Thank you for doing this."
yeah.
Especially like I've had women come up to me and they're just like, "Thank God, don't stop, don't stop," and that gives me fuel. But I also remind myself, "Hey, why are you doing this? I know why I'm doing this. I'm not going to tell anybody either." But I mean, like, I, there is this thing that this calm center that I'm following for my reasons. And and where how it's perceived externally, I can't control really. That is not what it's about. But I am convinced that the risk is valuable
Mm.
to others, not just to me.
I wonder. I don't know. It's so funny you say that because, like, I I remember the tarot reader said one time, you don't have to sacrifice what you think you have to sacrifice.
Mm,
When you
mm,
said that, that's what that rung in my head, because
mm.
I kind of compare it to, like, there's the Earth's core, and then
Yeah.
there's the Earth, right? And the Earth is messy, but our core is still and fiery. And I think that is what music is for me, you know?
Yeah.
The Earth is messy, like, on the outside world, it's going to be messy and it's going to be hard. But when you're actually making your songs, there's a stillness that nothing else gives you.
Ooh, that's great. I like
Yeah.
that. Yes.
I don't get that piece anywhere else, which is
Yes.
why it could be frustrating, this industry, because it's like, how could the thing that gives me most peace get so messy the minute it goes outside of me?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And right. And I see artists all the time who are, and I talk to friends who are musicians and songwriters, and I hear these things themselves. They're like, How can should I just go back into my room and just, like just make
Yeah.
it for myself and just not put it out there?" And I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know what that answer is because to me, it's a question of like, I do like to look at other artists and especially outsider artists, right? Like they're doing this because of this internal drive and desire.
Hmm.
That is what they are feeding and responding to. And you do need to make that distinction between your muse, your right, and everything else. And I think as a performer, someone who likes to be performing live, it's that there's this whole other level of you've got to do all these other things, whether it's talking to bookers or you gotta generate, sending out emails and calling people and going to gigs and all that stuff so you can book a gig and actually play live with the band. So there's you know
A projection. A lot of,
oh my God.
yeah.
So
So
much rejection.
it's interesting because as we're talking, it makes me wonder about, like, I think that I've spoken to artists that have quit, wanted to quit, and it all depends on what you need. I
Yeah.
mean, the act of songwriting itself is cathartic. The act
Hmm.
of performing is empowering. There's so many different levels to it, but it makes me wonder then if that's what imposter syndrome really is. because I
Mm.
feel that part of the disconnect people have between who they are as a performer and who they are as a person is that a lot of artists feel the performer is the real them.
Well, yeah,
That's the only time they are the real, they are shiny and bright and fearless, and then they get off the stage and they can't find the garbage can.
yeah.
Like, it becomes so mundane again.
It's interesting you put it that way because I think what it has to do with that sense of immediacy. And I mean, this is a far out analogy, but you hear people who've experienced people who've been in wartime situations or who are having to deal with a lot of decision making in the moment
Mm.
that is consequential at the time at different levels. You hear it from athletes, you hear it, right? It's that in the moment experience you have to be acting, deciding in the moment in this way that is public, consequential to you in some way. And when
Yeah.
you're not doing that, you kind of feel a bit of a letdown, maybe. I think we're frozen.
Yeah, I think we froze
Oh,
for a
are we
second.
back? Yeah.
Yeah, we're back. I mean, I heard what you said. You said you kind of feel a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah, but at this point in my life, I know that, I have all these obligations to my family, to the care of my son, to paying the bills. Got to do it. Got to do it. So, you know, it's kind of like I'm just grateful for this time, the time that I am able to be with the band, perform, tour, work on making music is just this tremendous it's worth all of the other, you know,
Well,
sacrifices.
I'm kind of surprised that you would feel. I mean, letdown is natural. It's human. We'll always be let down. But I wondered, if you have some level of peace that others don't have in terms of doing this, you know, singing and songwriting and performing for a while and having such a powerful identity. If now you have more peace compared to others, because I think part of the disruption is that you feel like you give and you're not receiving, or you feel like you give and you don't know what you're giving, but you're giving something. Like, there's such a murkiness in how we define giving and receiving for so long that the emptiness comes from that.
The emptiness, okay, I'm just gonna say the emptiness is always there and has always been there.
It never leaves.
Mm,
Ah,
no.
thank you for
So
being.
that's just always there.
Yeah.
And at least, speaking for myself. But how you manage it, how you engage with it, um, is what's relevant, I think. And
Mm,
a good friend told me once that this is after my mom died, and I just felt so at loss. And she just said, walk in nature, just walk.
mm.
And that is such great advice, right?
Yeah.
And so I walk in nature and I say, I see these flowers, I see these trees, I see this bird, I see that branch, I see this road, I see that car, I see what, this is worthwhile. No matter how, you know, uh, mm, whatever that sense of, I don't know, I can't even put words to it, right? But action and a decision to act and to serve other people is a great way to step back from the brink.
Yeah.
Get out of yourself, right? I mean, that's what people say. Oh, do something to distract yourself and get out of yourself. But service to other people, whether it's advocacy, whether it's taking care of your own children, whether it's taking care of a loved one, a parent, um, these things put things in perspective and teach you that your value is in being, a loving, caring human being, um, and and helps you reject the cynicism and disparagement that I think really runs you down, and if you let it.
Yeah, that's extremely wise because I think that most of us, including myself, think that there's a day when the emptiness is gone, where you could get rid of it. But it reminds me of like I just read this Carol Burnett interview where she was talking about her daughter who passed away from cancer, and she was talking about how she learned to be strong with her daughter's death because of how she handled the end of her life. And particularly a moment where these nurses came to her and said, your daughter is like one of the most joyful people to be dying, basically. And they asked her daughter why she was so cheery, and she says, I decide to be cheerful.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think it taps into what you're saying, that you forget almost the choice you have over your feelings.
Oh my God. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I could choose, I will feel the emptiness, but I can choose not to and manage, like walking through nature, to to distract from it, avoid it, fill it even.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is something that you learn, obviously, but yeah, but you
Yeah.
also forget.
you know, Thank goodness for the example of others, right? Like you just said, right? Because I know so many, I think of, women in particular that are just, they're so strong, and they don't go around, shouting it to the mountaintops and making a big deal out of it. They just are. And yet continue, to find a way to be gentle
Mhm.
or thoughtful, or not say the thing that they could have said, but they didn't. You know what I
Ye
mean? All those things, like I see that and I'm like, I'm grateful for the example. Like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, and maybe it's, yeah, I remember talking to an old friend, and when things were really quite awful, for various reasons, in my family, and I said, I choose happiness.
yeah.
I know the sadness is there.
Yeah.
I don't have to work on that.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah.
It's done. There. It's there. It's always there. That's fine. But I choose happiness, and I love joy, and I
Yeah.
love making people laugh. And I love, you know, putting something out there that just says, look at this. And, in my family, I'm the fifth of six kids. And so I was like the baby girl. I have a younger brother. And I was totally adored by my older siblings. They would dress me up and they called me the grand booba. I had this big belly and they put a top knot on my head and they'd all bow down in front of me. And, so I remember from a very young age that kind of joy of play and engagement with one another from my siblings. I
Yeah.
love that because it's a way to make it lightens the experience of life. Um, it's joyful, and it's about choice, right? Sometimes people are always waiting around like, when will I be happy? Who will make me happy? What will make me happy? And it's like, just be happy.
Yeah.
No one has to do it for you. I
Yeah.
mean, that happens and that's great, but I mean, no one, you don't wait around.
Yes. You shouldn't wait to be happy. If there's one thing you don't wait for,
It's
it's to
available. It's right there. You have it already. You got it.
well,
But
I think that you kind of tapped into. I think what one thing that you said, I don't have to work on the sadness, and I words is perfect, especially for people who've suffered from depression and that emptiness. It's that there is this kind of belief that you don't realize that you're working on the sadness because you almost feel like you do. Like I have to work on the sadness to work on the happy. And they really are two separate energies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I got sadness down packed. I gotta focus on happiness. I really do, because I don't know her, or I don't know her as intimately.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes.
yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
What you said.
All right. No, but it's so inspirational, and it's so wisdom is so casual. It really is.
We're all living this life, and like I am never I don't I really try not to approach the world with assumptions about people, because I have more often than not um been amazed by whatever someone is experiencing or how they've seen the world. And if they share something with me, as you are,
Yeah.
um that it's just incredibly nourishing. It kind
Yeah.
of, yeah, it makes things a little easier.
It makes happiness a little closer.
Yep.
Because if you see how they do it, there's always, if you're humble enough, you're taking notes.
All the time.
Let
Stenography.
me just jot that down for future reference. Because it's back sometimes when you're down and you remember, like the Carol Burnett interview
Yeah.
and her
Uh-huh.
daughter. I'm like, here's this woman who was an addict and suffered addiction and then is leaving this earth. And she has every reason to feel angry, to contemplate what she did with her life. How the hell don't I have more time? Because I finally just got sober. Now I'm leaving. And she says, well, why think about what I should have done? Let me do.
Yeah.
If my whole life I didn't experience happiness, let me choose it today.
Yeah. It's big stuff, man. I mean, and when you see the challenges that people live with on a daily basis, that are, and the ways different, it is in our nature to find happiness. This is part of the toolkit that we have all been assigned.
Yeah.
And you know I was thinking about, the deep sadness that suicide causes in
Mm,
generate, like the way that single thing causes this ripple effect across so many people. And I was like, what is it about it? What? I mean, of course it's sad, da 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 da, loss, and it was like, it's as if there is truly this web, and we are all tied together. We truly are each other's keeper, right? And when one piece of that thread, when one spark is, in a sense, doesn't follow the trajectory of whatever life intends, like the flower, like,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
something is ruptured,
Yeah.
and
And
it impacts, right? So in a way, it's like, in a sense, I remember, as my mother was dying, that I had such admiration for her, because I felt like even in that moment she was teaching, in a sense, that
mm,
you see it through.
go.
And I was just
Yeah.
so amazed by, like, this is what humans do.
Yeah.
We can be so extraordinary. I mean, we can be so phenomenally awful and cruel, as we know, all the time. But we have this capacity for really exceptionalism, that, and it's quotidian. It's what we do day in, day out.
Well, we've been here like nearly 40 minutes.
Oh my God. Okay, sorry. We've been like, this is like a
No, but
philosophy
I
class or
know, but I just want to say, I think you're so special. I think just what you said, or like right now, I mean, to see that human beings can be extraordinary, especially in this world where not only we know it's cruelty, but it's
something.
almost cool to always call it cruel to the point where we all feel hopeless about it. Because it's like
Mhm.
every day, bad news, let's talk about bad things. And if you say, I don't want to talk about it, or like, let's talk about it in a new way, in a lighter way, it's almost like you're an idiot and you should go and you're not being real. But they're
Mhm.
to humanity. And I think that just saying that we're extraordinary is like, that makes you so special because it means
Mhm.
you see it, you feel it, you know it. And that's so rare. That's like a rare gem.
Well, I don't know. I feel like it's part of what this is coming from is I was watching Representative Justin Jones in Tennessee,
Yeah.
right? Talking. And I was like, oh, that's hope.
Yes.
Even though this has just happened, this thing which is so wrong and messed up, this person is expressing hope and an intention of a
Mhm.
better tomorrow. He is
That's
expressing that.
a warrior for good. We still got him. We still got
And
him.
I'm like, that is inspiring to me. I'm like, thank you, lead. I'm grateful for your words, your example.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this interview. Fantastic.
Thank
And I'm
you.
so happy that I met you. I'm
I
really
am,
happy.
this is great. Thank you. Thank you for talking with me. This is just, thank
Yeah.
you.
I'll send the interview when it's posted and but again, but I just can't reiterate it. It was wonderful meeting you. You are amazing. And thank you
I,
so much.
I hope we'll continue this conversation at some
Yay.
point.
Yay.
Okay.
Have a
All
great day.
right. Take it
Bye.
easy. All right. Bye bye.